Hey, 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 Fit Mama. Jen Oliver here, your host of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout. And welcome to episode 20. What are you addicted to? Well, that's a question that digs right in, isn't it? Have you thought about it lately? Is there something that stands out that you don't think you could go a day without? I've never been one for small talk or skirting around issues. I am not one who loves confrontation, but if someone comes to me for help, support, or coaching, I go straight up talk and know that that's the best way that I can help them overcome any challenge, barrier that is going on in their life by being real, honest, and getting to the heart of the matter. Addiction is quite a complicated topic and one that is beyond the scope of today's podcast. When I'm talking about addiction here, I'm just talking about little addictions. I'm going to refer to them as little addictions. I'm not talking about a hardcore drug or alcohol dependency, though that may very well be. Help is needed if that is the case, but I'm mostly focusing you here today on habits or behaviors that you've gotten into a routine around and that are no longer serving you. Often we get into doing behaviors that don't serve us in a way to make ourselves feel better in times of need. We may feel tired or overwhelmed after a long day and look forward to that wine glass or Netflix show that we love so much because it takes us out of our head and into a new dimension. While in the short term, this may feel good, and I'm not telling you not to do it, I'm all about feeling good. But I really just today want to have you take a solid look at your own habits and consider where might they be holding you back. A lot of the time, what you're facing as an addiction challenge, and yes, we all have these little addiction challenges at some level, overeating, smoking, drinking daily, etc. It's not usually that behavior per se that is the problem. It's actually usually that those habits are a symptom of a greater problem. Usually you can give up one thing and become addicted to another thing. And when I say addiction, I mean anything, but I don't necessarily mean a psychological or physiological addiction, such as in the diagnostic manual that psychologists and doctors use. I more mean overuse and continued use and feeling somewhat out of control around certain things like shopping, exercising, TV, food, sugar, diet pop, junk food, drive-through, coffee, drama in your relationships, or anything really. A lot of the time we replace negative feelings with a behavior that don't make us feel better in the long run and is something that we can become dependent on. We've all heard someone say, I have an addictive personality, and you may have said this yourself, in which case you mean that you feel like you have little self-control around things that bring you pleasure, and it's a slippery slope, so to speak. Most people can see this in themselves when they try and give up one thing and something else replaces it. For example, you might be giving up sugar and instead drink 5 Diet Cokes a day while you're doing so. Or you say you won't spend any more money and you end up overeating or binge drinking or something else. A lot of the time, these little addictions are just ways we choose to increase the neurotransmitter dopamine in our brains. We don't know we're doing this, but dopamine is the feel-good chemicals that make us drawn to certain things. Sometimes they're just means to escape the thoughts that are constantly going through our head. Some of us have a hard time quieting that little voice in our head. While our personalities and life circumstances do have a lot to do with it, there are some times in our life that leave us more susceptible, such as stress, also such as having young children. I think of little addictions like escape patterns from our lives, things that can take us out of our current moment and whisk us away to another place and time that we feel is better than the one we're in. Does it sound familiar? We all do it to some degree. Some behaviors are just more destructive than others. The first thing you can do if you think that this sounds like you is just this: become aware of it. You might be doing that or feeling that right now. I'm here as your point of awareness to ask you, how is this behavior making you feel? Not while I'm partaking in the behavior, though, but afterwards or the next day. Is there a guilt, a shame, or a regret associated with your behavior? If you're already aware of the behavior, but you're still doing it, how can you become even more aware of the effects that it's having in your life? Write it down in a safe place consistently for a few days or weeks. What is it that's triggering this addictive behavior pattern? Let's take an example of my own. I remember clearly the point at which I realized my wine drinking habit was just not enjoying the wine anymore. It was slightly more. It was a need for the wine. I wouldn't only drink when I was at friend's house or with friends or partying, but I would also have some alone when my hubby was out of town working. I stopped and I noticed that it just wasn't, oh, I'm going to have this and have fun and enjoy a wine with a meal. It was, I need wine now. It's going to make me feel better and I want to feel better. Some phases we are in are worse than others. I know for me, especially when it came to my chronic back pain, I spent almost 3 years in constant stabbing pain to the point where everything hurt, including breathing. And I wasn't able to get any relief from it. So, enter wine, and I would numb the pain, or at least my perception of it. I would wake up the next day, though, feeling anxious and ashamed that I had more than I felt that I needed. There are so many things that can trigger addictive behaviors. Now, this was not fully classified as an addiction, and I wouldn't think it is because it was something I could have stopped, but it was a routine behavior that I did repeatedly, and I knew it wasn't good for me. I could have stopped myself if I wanted to on many occasions, and I did. I would go long periods without wine or drinking only here or there or only at meals or parties or with others. But there were those times that it felt like nothing could stop me. But awareness, as usual, was my friend. Often those times and those negative, repetitive behaviors acted like a lighthouse for me, and they can be lighthouses for all of us to say, hey, what's going on here? What is making me feel that I need to do this? So often the addictive behavior, when it's not pathological, can stem from us needing a little diversion from our lives. What's making life feel so hard for you? What is leading you to need the escape? Asking yourself these questions can be very enlightening. Sometimes the addictive patterns can stem from boredom, other times stress, other times emotional meltdowns. For me, it was a lack of control feeling. I remember feeling out of control with my life. I just had so many responsibilities, so many things on my to-do list. And with babies, we all know we have very little control over how much time and energy we actually have for our own things. I love very much to be autonomous over my own life and the decisions and the behaviors I engage in. I'm very mindful of who I spend my time with, what I do with my time, and how it makes me feel in the moment and in the moments following. When I had really little ones, I often felt that lack of control. Everything was on me when my hubby traveled, and we had no family closer than 3 to 4 hours away. I felt immense pressure and a loneliness that I felt nobody could fill for me. I was already frustrated with my injury, so I didn't have my workouts, my running, or my usual ways of blowing off steam or calling friends or family didn't feel like it cut it. I also didn't feel like I was able to do my habits of meditation and journaling in those moments when I was so frustrated because I had to take care of my kids. The kids dictated it all, and it made me feel out of control. And what we know as parents is that we don't have a whole lot of space and time and energy left at the end of the day to do things for ourselves when we feel this supreme depletion. A quick interruption from today's episode to share with you one of our show sponsors, Best Self Journal. I don't know about you, but I am a bit of a journal junkie. I love goal setting and planning and executing in a way that makes goal getting fun. It wasn't until I was gifted this Best Self Journal by a coach I was working with that I fell in love with it and now give it to all the fit mamas I begin working privately with. The ease of using this journal and the laying out of the priorities that are needed to move forward on tasks and epic happenings in your life is so simple and fun with this journal. Have you discovered the Best Self Journal yet? I guarantee that using this journal will move you towards feeling your best. And I just ordered the Smart Marks bookmark and the weekly planner pad, which I am so excited for, and I will share how much I am loving those in the future. Productivity, organization, and focus are keys for fitting in all the things that you want, making sure that you are achieving the things you set out for yourself. I'm sure you know how good that feels to be organized, planned, and ready to execute. Click the link below and get your own Best Self Journal today. Wine enabled me to feel a little energized and the feeling of relaxation while I was still on in parenting, changing diapers, cleaning, cooking, prepping, organizing, doing things for the kids, etc. Those early days are so hard, Fit Mama. So give yourself a big pat on the back right now, no matter what phase you're in. And while things may feel like they get easier, they do become different. Those early days are hard, Fit Mama, so give yourself a pat on the back. And while they may not get easier per se, they do become different, and so too can our coping strategies. I know we've all been there and have different ways of coping. That's really what these little addictions are. They are just that, ways of coping. The thing is that these ways of coping are often deleterious, meaning they can cause harm or damage to us in both the short and long term. The good news is that if you can become aware of how these phases in your life affect your behaviors, you can then bring it within your control to actually make changes to these little addictive coping strategies. First, it's imperative that you take an honest look at the underlying reasons for things. Why is it that you escape into these little addictive behavior patterns? Are you letting other things get you more? Are you letting things get to you more than you need to? Are you not dealing with the emotions you feel of loneliness, anger, or resentment? If someone puts you down or leaves you out, do you take it to heart and harm yourself in the process? If someone bothers you or the kids are acting up, do you immediately get your back up and get frustrated at them for your short fuse? Are you too hard on yourself and you're never giving yourself some peace and downtime in your day? It's not uncommon for people who are always on the go in fast forward mode to equate their self-worth with how many things they can get done in a day, and to feel like they deserve to let loose and be free and have fun, which unfortunately usually means it's negative behavior we feel we deserve. I fell victim to this for many years. And it still rears its ugly head from time to time. I always notice that when I go too hard for too long, there is an inevitable crash, which may lead me to go back to negative coping strategies again, purely out of overwhelm and just wanting to throw in the towel. I often talk about habit formation and cultivating habits that stick, but today's focus is more on habit breaking with regards to those addictions or habits that we've formed without realizing it and realizing how they're affecting our lives. Now, I'm using the term addiction pretty loosely here, and unlike a heroin addiction, where you might die from the physical withdrawal symptoms, with the little addictions I'm referring to here, it's more about choices. For example, if someone were to put a gun to your head and disallow you to engage in your addictive habit, I'm pretty sure you would still survive. Maybe with a little more discomfort, and perhaps actually survive better than at the present moment. Remember, addictions of this nature can cross any domain. Perhaps you're addicted to drama at work, or you look for people to complain about or gossip with. And you may not outwardly be able to admit that you are addicted, but here's your chance to look at this gift horse in the mouth. What is this addictive behavior, this little addiction or multiple little behaviors here to teach you? Maybe you're still unaware of it, in which case some journaling might be beneficial to you. In the Fit Mama Foundations program, I talk specifically about this and also about journaling as a brilliant tool for self-awareness. Are you constantly thinking to yourself, why does drama follow me around? Why am I always in debt? Why can I not lose this weight? You might very well be addicted to something that is perpetuating the problem, or at least you're manifesting it into your life in some way you may not yet understand. Journaling will allow you to become present with this, and you may find yourself unveiling things you didn't even realize you thought. This is actually one of the reasons why some people don't like journaling. It makes them aware of things they're afraid to look at. But action cures fear, and the only way to the other side of these fears is through them. Face them. This was one of the biggest lessons for me when I had my back injury, was to stop skirting around issues in my own life and face the emotions I was feeling instead of burying my fears, frustrations, and fantasies into my habits. I just needed to face them and approach myself with loving kindness and compassion. I don't let my clients avoid their main issues, so why was I letting myself get away with it? The interesting thing is that addictions are paradoxical. What I mean by that is, although we're engaging in them to avoid something else in our life that's negative, such as a breakup, our self-esteem issues, the stress of our bodies or our jobs, and dissatisfaction with life, those things are usually exacerbated by the fact that we're engaging in the behavior. For example, ironically, it's the people who are in the most debt who still have shopping addictions and gambling addictions. Obese people who have food addictions, and those with low self-esteem that have sex addictions. And you may say, well, yes, the food addiction is what's causing the person to be obese. But I beg to differ. I don't believe there is anything as ironic as someone spending money to make themselves feel better because they are in extreme debt. See, what we do is avoid the feelings we're having, and we try to, quote unquote, medicate ourselves to the point where we don't feel the negative feelings anymore. But they always come up worse. For example, you might have been going through a breakup. You go to the bar for a few drinks, you end up feeling so good from the escape of the alcohol, and then you keep on drinking. Only the next day, not only are you still broken up, but you also spent $300 at the bar, you have a massive hangover, and you got reprimanded at your job for coming in late. The final result is that the trouble or the problem is only compounded by this behavior, and for some reason it still occurs, and it will likely occur again. Examples in your own life may be different, and you may think that it's harmless to treat yourself to an ice cream after a hard day at work, or indulge in an expensive new item because you've been working so much overtime and you're exhausted. However, I just want to create an awareness in you so you can identify if these things are occurring more often than chance. Once in a while is totally okay. Go for it. It won't cause you to get in debt or gain weight. and it won't offset your pace towards your goals either. But if it starts to become more frequent and you're using it instead of choosing it, you want to start looking at what the underlying causes might be to your habits and tendencies to fall into these little addictive behavior patterns. Remember, even small attachments with things can escalate easily into addictions. Remember not to become attached to material things, routines, or other people. It's not to say don't fall head over heels with someone or stay consistent in your morning workouts. I mean, don't become attached to them, where you feel you cannot function independently of them, or you feel you're only worthy if you are doing them or are with them. That somehow a lack of them makes up a lesser you. A quick interruption from today's episode to give love to our show's sponsor, Notes to Self Socks. Have you seen these socks yet? Are you wanting to buy some loving gifts for friends, family, or colleagues? Why not spread some love and positivity by sending them a pair of socks with positive affirmations on them? I was gifted my first pair of Notes to Self socks by a beautiful and thoughtful client of mine, and they say, "I am grateful and I am perfectly me," which are incredibly lovely statements and reminders all day when I wear them. I love them. If you want to put a huge smile on your own or someone else's face, then get them something that will bring them joy over and over again. Notes to Self socks. Order yours today by clicking the link in the show notes and begin every day with a smile. I remember feeling so inadequate that I couldn't exercise the way I wanted because of pain. I became so attached to my old body that could work out and do the things I wanted it to do. And I would feel such a lack around my current body that couldn't do the things I wanted. It made me care less about taking incredible loving care of this body, and it kept me looking for external ways to feel better. Note to self. I was not any lesser of a person because I wasn't able to exercise how I wanted or go do things I wanted. I still deserved and always will deserve loving compassion from myself first, especially before I can give it to anyone else. Remember this always, Fit Mama. Change is the only inevitable thing in life. Remember that everything comes and goes, and so too will your present mood that is leading you to indulge in these behaviors that end up sabotaging you. Today, take a moment to relax. Call a friend or family, someone that you trust, and talk about the feelings and how they're causing you to want to engage in unhealthy negative behaviors. This behavior isn't the problem. It's your lack of coping that is. Coping entails facing the facts, courageously asking for help and receiving it. You owe it to yourself to avoid getting caught in the traps that addiction poses. It's not just a matter of weak willpower. It's a matter of emotional regulation and figuring out what works for you in those times where you get desperate and start to feel like you might spiral out of control. Trust yourself that you have within you the strength to overcome your negative emotions and feelings without depending on an outside source. And trust that no matter how bad the moment may feel, if you can come to terms with the feelings you're having and understand what they're doing to you, you can start to strategize different ways to get you feeling good again. 3 things you can do to overcome any little addictions that may be holding you back. 1, journal and notice what is coming up in your life. What are the little addictions and what triggers them? In the Fit Mama Foundations program, we have lots of journaling prompts that will get you thinking in different ways about your life and your habits. Number 2, learn some emotional regulation tools. These tools will save your life. Emotional regulation tools such as meditation, chanting mantras, affirmations, journaling, or emotional freedom technique, aka tapping, to name a few. Learning tools that will help you cope will absolutely improve any little addictions you have. Number 3, address the issues underlying the emotional dysregulation. When we feel all out of sorts or lonely or tired or angry, look at what the cause is and see where you can get support, assistance, or the help you need to overcome the stresses in your life. No matter what, all negative feelings will pass faster when you face them than escape them, especially when you gain the clarity and understanding of how to work through them. Sometimes someone outside yourself is needed. I know I had to hire coaches to help me, and in retrospect, it may have taken me years and many more bottles of wine to truly get pain-free, which wouldn't have helped, and out of the constant nagging voice and sabotage that came from within my own head. It is a very empowering feeling to know that there is always help and that there are tools to help you deal with things within yourself. You do not forever have to depend on someone or something outside yourself to get you feeling better, because these often put you in a bigger mess than you started out. You got this, Fit Mama. I know it. Take a good look at your habit and all your habits and your addictions and figure out where you can make even small positive changes to something that you're not entirely happy with. I am here for you, Fit Mama. I'd love to hear your stories, and I am here to help you. So please reach out anytime. Email me at jen@jenoliver.com or reach out on social media. I read every message. I wish you a fabulous, fabulous day. Have a super week ahead. Namaste.